This is Dick Young from Innova Industries in Fergus Falls, Minnesota. And so tell us, Dick, a little bit about how did you end up in Fergus Falls and when you started the business and how you got to that point and how old you were, too. I think that's an interesting piece of it.
Well, I'm originally from Grand Forks and had worked in a family business up there for many years. And, you know, sometimes family businesses are a great thing. People stay on the same song sheet and so forth, and sometimes it isn't always that way. But there came a day when we decided that it was time to move on and had a love for Fergus Falls area because of the lakes. And so my wife and I, or Lorna is her name, we decided to move here and with the idea that I'd probably just get a job and work a number of years until I retired. And after coming down here, I got involved with a friend. He had an idea for a business, said he needed some help, and so I waited around for him a little bit, and nothing really came out of that. And in talking to somebody else, he said, well, why don't you just start your own business? And in a very short conversation, he convinced me that if I was to write a pretty good business plan, even though we didn't have any money, we maybe could get our business started. And so I made a decision there within a couple of minutes, actually, of maybe this is what we should do. And I called my son, Jeff, and I said, Jeff, what do you think if we bought a laser and a CNC brake? You think we could be in business in Fergus Falls? I said, just the two of us, we could run that equipment and maybe make a living. And he said, I think that would be a great idea. And so I started to chase down equipment and do some configuring of a business plan and so forth. And it by the time we kind of pulled everything together and got equipment and a building and a business plan in place that a bank would look at and could actually say we were going to start, it took 23 months. So it was a long haul to get it going. But when you start with nothing, it takes a long time to develop something. And so that's how we got here and how we really got started with the business.
So, Dick, you were in your early 50s at that time. Is that correct? You know, and certainly a lot of people would be at that age thinking about, how am I going to retire and how am I going to slow down? And yet here you were saying, I'm ready to go to the bank and borrow and lay this all out on the line. And did it worry you? Were you scared?
I wasn't worried until they finally said yes, and here's the papers and sign here. And then it was kind of like when you get married and you get up in the front of the church, and all of a sudden you're thinking, well, wait a minute, now this is forever. But you know, we signed the papers and we went after it. And the interesting part is we knew we could do the business. Jeff knew how to purchase materials. He had the contacts with that. He knew how to estimate parts, which is a big thing, to know what your marketplace is and how much you need to do to compete in it. And so we developed some pretty good formulas to use to secure some bids. And our business is basic, it's manufacturing, and it's called contract manufacturing or fabrication, where we'll look at a part for somebody. We may not have any idea what that part is going to be used for, but we know it has so many holes in it and it's got to be bent or something's got to happen to it. And we figure out what it'll take to do that and submit a bid, and if they like it, they will order. And so I knew Jeff could do that part. Jeff's pretty good with the books and so forth. I knew I could program the machines. And we had another guy that started with us right away. He learned to run the laser. And you know, we just started out, and the truth was we didn't know how to run our equipment when we started. And it took some time to learn that, but we learned as we went with the thing.
What exactly do you make or do, and who are your customers?
Well, we make a lot of parts that fit into industry. And for example, we make parts for Case New Holland. In Fargo, some go to Fargo and some go to other plants around the country. We make a lot of parts for Bobcat, and it's a variety of customers. We have about 5 really solid OEMs that we work for, and then there's a lot of small customers that we make parts for once a year, twice a year, a few parts here, a few parts there. And the parts could be anything from frame parts for these floor cleaning equipment to just big steel plates. They might be some tubing that that we process for people. We have one laser. We actually have 5 lasers, but one of the lasers has the capabilities of working somewhat like a robot, that it can reach around corners and cut around corners for tubing. And so it's quite a variety. It's just the nature of a contract manufacturer. You get a lot of things to look at.
What does one laser cutting machine cost?
Well, there are a variety of prices, but today you can spend $600,000 to $1 million, $600,000 to $1 million for a laser, depending on what you want it to do. It's a big investment, huge investment, actually, when you start to think about it. And of course, repairs are expensive and so forth. So it's when you decide to be in a business like ours, you really stick your neck out for a lot of money.
You started with 1, and now you have 5?
5. Yeah, we have 5 now. We had 1 press brake in the beginning. We have 3 now. We borrowed a forklift from a neighbor in the building we were first in, and today we have 10 forklifts. So everything kind of expands.
You started with yourself and Jeff and 1 other person. And how many years and how many employees have you had now?
Well, we've started in 97, in March of 1997. Basically opened the doors. We were trying to make a few parts, and we got going that way. Our sales force was the steel salesman that we purchased from, because they'd grab our business cards and hand them out to their customers, and so they sold a lot of product for us in the beginning. We had Jeffrey he was always a good friend of Jeff's from way back, and so he worked with us from day one. Over the years, until about 2 years ago, we had developed a crew up around 73 people, and had moved 2 times from the original location. And it's we were growing fast with the economy such as it was, and when things slowed down, of course, it hit us like everybody else, and we had to scale back our crew. But at this point, things are changing again, and we're hiring some people back, and business is growing again.
So have you had some sleepless nights over this ever, Dick? Or have you, had times you were worried, or, did I do the right thing?
I guess you can always have those thoughts. But I don't think that, looking back, I ever thought that it wasn't going to work. I think we always knew, and we're confident that we knew what to do to make the business run. And of course, you have to have a lot of faith. There are times when you get tested pretty hard, but I've always felt that God didn't get us as far as we were to just drop us, and so it was a matter of just being patient, waiting out to see what was going to happen next.